All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Maria Mancia. I am the National Recruiter with American Canadian School of Medicine. I am super excited to have everybody here. We're going to go ahead and just do a quick roll call and find out where everyone is located. I'm in Chicago, the beautiful and getting cold city of Chicago. So drop in the comments section wherever you happen to be, whether it's in Canada, the US, wherever that is, just let us know where you are. And along the way, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in there as well. They will be answered, and we will have a Q&A section at the end. So let's begin. Today we're going to be talking about funding your future.
Canadian School of Medicine. I'm the chairman of the board.
All right, so let me go ahead and introduce, it is my honor to introduce our esteemed founder. His name is Dr. Arvind Bagapour, and he is a driving force behind ACSOM. Dr. Bagapour, thank you so much for joining us here today. I'm going to go ahead and, that is my information. Hold on, okay. So that is my information, everybody. Feel free to take that down so you can contact me at any point. Let's go ahead and introduce. There we go. All right, Dr. Bagapour, take it away.
Hello. Hi, everybody. And thank you all for joining on this Thursday afternoon. I am in Houston, Texas. I was just up in New York City. So welcome from every corner of the United States and Canada. Thank you for joining. I'm just going to take a quick minute to tell you all about my journey because it's going to be relevant to the journey that you're taking. I am a vascular and interventional radiologist. I'm board certified in radiology, and I have about 10 state licenses. So likely a license in one of the states that one of you all are from. And I went to a Caribbean medical school. I went to University of Texas, and then I graduated, and my MCAT score wasn't too phenomenal, but I didn't want my MCAT score to define me, and it didn't define me. In fact, I later went and did my clinicals and all the work in the Caribbean. When I finished, I went on to do a general surgery internship at Beth Israel in New York City. And then from there, I went on to do a radiology residency. And again, I'm a board certified radiologist. And that was at the University of Texas at San Antonio. And then I went on and got to my dream point of becoming what's called a vascular and interventional radiologist. And what that is, I am somebody that puts in stents into people's bodies. My mentor was the person that invented the cardiac stent. His name was Julio Palmez. And I also stop internal bleeding. I do biopsies. I do all sorts of things that doctors in other fields consult me for to help them. I drain abscesses. I take clots out of people's brains. I take clots out of people's lungs, and open up clots out of people's legs. So it's a pretty dynamic field. I also did another fellowship in women's imaging, so mammography. And in my field, we speak to all sorts of different types of people. With that said, this all started going to a Caribbean med school. So there's going to be 4 things that I want to talk to everybody about when you're going down this pathway. And then I'm going to explain to you why I opened up ACSOM, because it needed to be different. I learned so much going through the process of my medical education, from med school to internship to residency to later my fellowship, and now my clinical practice. And what I learned was there is a different way that's even better, that gets you to your dream and allows you to be an amazing doctor. So with that said, there's 4 things I want to talk about. One is, can you get a really good education in the Caribbean? And can you become a doctor? Yes, you can. It's a pathway that's been around for almost 40 years. And thousands and thousands of doctors have gone through this pathway. We are practicing across all fields of medicine, from primary care to subspecialties like me. We're across all academic and private practices in the United States and in Canada. We've probably come in contact with either you or your family members at one point in our lives. And it's a tried and true pathway. But there's a better pathway. And so that's why I want to talk to you about ACSOM. ACSOM was made as the very first nonprofit medical school in the Caribbean. Why is that important? Because one, we have a social mission to make the best doctors that can come out of our school and out of the Caribbean and be the equivalent to every US and Canadian doctor. Our curriculum is equivalent to a US and Canadian equivalent curriculum. What does that mean? Other Caribbean schools, they're taught by PhDs. The majority of your teaching is taught by somebody who's never seen a patient. Medicine is an art of humans and curing humans. And we are taught at our school only by doctors, except for very few exceptions, such as biostatistics or community health modules. That makes a big difference. We start teaching you from the first day how to think like a doctor, how to act like a doctor, how to process thoughts and information that your patients give you so you can come up with diagnoses and treatments. The boards nowadays, they're not science-based only. They're heavily clinically based. And when you learn something, you're going to learn it in a matter of I'm sorry, 1 second here. My AC went off. It's a little hot. So the boards right now are all centered around clinical-based medicine. So what does that mean? You're going to learn things in context. You're not going to learn things in separate, for instance, subject matters. At other schools, they teach you completely based on, I'm sorry. I'm in my car because I just left clinic. So I had to turn the AC on. At other schools, they teach you in science-based topics. What does that mean? It means that you're going to learn biochemistry, pathology, pharmacology, anatomy, embryology separately. The boards don't ask you questions like that. And when you're in your clinicals, you don't get presented with patients like that. You're going to get presented in a matter of a full clinical context. You're going to get case history, and somehow, some way, they're going to ask you about biochemistry or an amino acid or something along the way. So let me give you an example. Instead of learning rote pathology and anatomy, you're going to learn like a real simple case. Somebody falls on their wrist, an outstretched hand, and their wrist is still not healing after it's been casted. They're going to tell you that the bone is affected. They're going to show you. They're even going to tell you the name of the bone. It's called the scaphoid bone. And why? And then they're going to ask you, why has it not healed? Because of avascular necrosis. What is the reason? The radial artery runs right over that scaphoid bone. I know that because I treat patients. Your professors at ACSOM know that because they treat patients. Your biochemist or your anatomist that just looks at the anatomy and doesn't have ever seen a patient in his life does not know that. So what happened with me while I was in school? And I went to Ross University School of Medicine, and I'm grateful that they gave me the opportunity. But I was self-driven, like almost every other Caribbean medical student. I taught myself. I did all the questions myself. I worked my butt off without the systems that should be in place for medical students. I sat in a class of over 560 students. By first semester, there was 350 students left. So if any school is telling you that they're going to give you the academic support by a doctor, you have to ask the right questions because it's very unlikely. We are a nonprofit institution. This is not for me or for anybody else, but it's for you as students to thrive and have the best curriculum that's equivalent to schools such as Yale University and Johns Hopkins and McGill and anybody else, because our curriculum was built by professors from the best institutions in the United States and Canada. When you take tests and quizzes and practice exams, you're going to do what's called the NBMEs, the National Board of Medical Examiner questions. We don't write your questions. No biochemist is writing your question. A doctor that works for the boards, that writes the USMLE, writes these questions. And you take them for practice questions, you take them for quizzes that aren't graded, and you take them for your module test. our classes are not taught by individual sections, because we know when you have a clinical context, like I just gave you for your wrist, nobody here is going to forget that. You're always going to remember if you fall on your outstretched hand and it doesn't heal, and this bone over here is not healing, then it's the scaphoid bone and it's got avascular necrosis because the radial artery runs right there. We can get even into more complex things, but it's not worth it on this call. But that can break down to biochemistry, pharmacology, things like that. And why is clinical context and being taught by a doctor important? When I went to med school, which wasn't that long ago, I had to learn 9 Parkinson's drugs. You're going to have to learn 15 or so Parkinson's drugs. How are you going to remember them all if you don't have a clinical context? You're going to need to know 15 drug-drug interactions, 15 side effects, 15 different levels of when you give what drug and when, because the boards are clinical. Your step 1s, your step 2s, and your step 3s. You will do a lot of self-learning, but at our school, we have small classrooms. If you recall, I said my school had like 567 people in my first year class. I could not even go to my white coat ceremony. There wasn't enough white coats, and there wasn't enough seats in the lecture hall. Some of the other schools are even bigger. You will never be in a class that's bigger than 10 people. What we have is called a flip classroom. In the morning, you go to a lecture by an expert, and you can go to our website. We have over 50 expert speakers and adjunct faculty members and faculty members from the top institutions in the US and in Canada teaching you. And they're going to teach on a subject that's important to you. Like if you're learning chest that week, then after you break out of that hour lecture in the morning by the expert, you're going to move into your flip classroom. And that flip classroom is going to be one MD or DO doctor, a doctor that treats patients, teaching you about the topic. And our doctors, and you working through as a group, and our doctors, they all go through Johns Hopkins Faculty Development Program. A PhD can't do that. Only MDs are allowed in there, and we do this program, and they learn to teach you in the best way so you retain information. Because the boards are not about publishing a pass rate that some school talks about, because we earned that. They didn't earn that for us. We earned it. You're all here because you have the mission, the drive, and the passion to become a doctor. We're going to give you every tool to get the best education you can get, equivalent to your counterparts, at a price that's affordable. And this is really important as Jane Sutter talks to you all about financial aid. We all know interest rates are higher. When I went to med school, my interest rates are about 3%. Now interest rates are 8% with the government loans. And that's what you'll have with our school government equivalent loans. But what does that mean? When I graduated from Ross University, I graduated with $458,000 of student loan debt. By the time I started paying it back, it was nearly $900,000. It's a travesty. I'm very fortunate that I've done exceedingly well, and I'm able to give back as a nonprofit to ensure your tuition is almost half that price, and you will not end up with nearly $2 million of student loan debt, because your interest rates are much higher than they were when I went to school. And I ended up with nearly $900,000. And I gave a speech about this at the National Pre-Medical Advisors Conference this last year. I'm here to speak the truth about the best education you can get, and the people that have come together here to help you achieve that, and to take you to achieve all your dreams, because your MCAT score does not define you. Jane is going to come over here and talk to you guys, and Amanda and everybody else, about how we're going to get you through school, get you a lot of scholarships, make sure you don't end up in student loan debt, provide financial counseling for you, things that nobody else does. The for-profit schools are exactly that. They're there to be for profit. They teach in 12, 500, 600 people classrooms with one faculty member. We're there because we want to make you a great doctor. And I'm going to hand it over to everybody else. You guys can You're all going to get my cell phone number, my personal cell phone number, my personal email. If you text message me, I'll share my contact with you. Also, it's got my TikTok channel where you can see surgeries that I do. Just one last thing about faculty members. We're a new school, and I want you all to know that our faculty are from the best places in the US and in Canada. Most of them are either program directors, former program directors, or associate program directors at residency programs. What does that mean? Someone like me, my brother was the program director at University of Texas. Dr. Ahmadi, our dean, was a program director at a Yale affiliated hospital for 16 years in internal medicine, is going to be your mentor, is going to take you through every step of medical school and clinicals, which actually I have a really great announcement to make about clinicals, because the majority of your education is not in Dominica, which is where I went to school. It's a great campus, great place to live. Maria will talk about that. The majority of it is in a hospital in the US. And today we just signed our clinical agreement with Yale New Haven Health System, Bridgeport Hospital. So you will get an elite education at a nonprofit price that'll set you on the pathway to succeed and be a great doctor and save lives. Everybody here in this room is a leader. You each have the power to change people's emotions, thoughts, and actions for the better good of society. And I'm here for you. And I am excited about this opportunity that they're going to present to you today. So thank you, Maria. Thank you, Jane. Thank you, everybody. And most important, thank you to all you potential students that joined this call. This is my cell phone number. Text me. Even if you're not coming to our school, you can text me. Even if you become a doctor 4 years from now, you can text me. If you need a consult, you can text me. I will always be available, because my goal is to ensure that we treat patients and change the world. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bhagarpur. And I just want to reiterate that, he is extremely accessible to everybody. This is literally his cell phone number. I can assure you there is no other founder of any other university or company or anything that will make himself so readily available to you. So please take a photo of that so you can reach out to him and just say, you know what, I just signed up. I sent in my application to ACSOM. I'm super excited. So go ahead and do that. All right. So if you did join us a little bit later, please go ahead and drop in the comment section where in the world you are. I see Jersey. I see Frishta Thomas in Calgary. Hi, Frishta. I met her recently in Calgary. We had an event there. So welcome, Frishta. I'm excited to have you. So keep dropping in your locations. And along the way, if you have any questions, drop those in as well. So as Dr. Bhagarpur said, we are going to talk about the extremely important topic of financial aid and tuition. I know that obviously this is a very important factor along the way. So I do want to go ahead and take a moment to introduce Ms. Jane Sutter. She is our financial aid officer. She is a specialist. She is also very accessible. So please go ahead and drop in your questions live. She will be answering them live. This is your opportunity. Any questions you have, any concerns, she will be more than happy to review that today. So I see also Washington, D.C. I see Toronto. So welcome everybody. We're so happy you're joining us today. So Jane, welcome to you. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. We appreciate your knowledge. Take it away.
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Jane Sutter, and I'm in charge of the Financial Aid Office. Just a little bit about my background. I have been in the business of international medical schools for 40 years. That means that I helped start one of the first schools in the Caribbean a long time ago. It was a for-profit. I'm real familiar with all the ins and outs and the needs. Delighted to work for a non-for-profit. Let me explain what my role is and how we can help you. The first thing I think is that the largest goal for us in student financial services is to make this stress-free for you. You have enough, as Dr. Bhagarpur was saying, you have so much to worry about just to learn how to be a physician. So what we want to do is take away or help you along the way, particularly before you even start medical school, in figuring out what you have to pay and how you're going to pay it. Okay. So there are student financial services is really divided up into two departments. I'm sure most of you are familiar with this because you've been to universities. So you have a bursar's office, and the bursar's office is going to bill you, collect the money from you, money that you have or you don't have. It depends upon what financial aid's help has done, right? So bursar is the department. They have a staff of people that will be able to explain to you whenever you have a question about your bill or your fees. What you're going to be billed for is basically tuition and fees and health insurance and things like that. Okay, but they will be available online as well as on the phone for you. The other side of financial aid, of student financial services, is the financial aid office, which I have been involved with financial aid and international medical students since 1986. And so I have seen the ups and the downs of student loans and student scholarship and legacy scholarships and things like that for a real long time. Just like Dr. Bagafor said, and because I'm older than him, I can tell you that I have spoken to 5 to maybe even 10,000 students over the last 40 years. And I know you guys, I know who you are, and I know what it means to want to be a doctor, because this is what I've lived with, and I've helped all these students all these years understand the financial end of this really daunting process. Okay, so I'd be more than happy to help you. I love working with students. It's a very important part of my life. So what's our role here? So our role is really that we know you have bills to pay, and we know you have tuition and fees to pay, but we also know you have living expenses to pay. You have to figure out how you're going to pay for your airfare. How are you going to pay for your food? How are you going to pay for health insurance? How are you going to pay for all the things in your life? All right. And so I set up a counseling session with you and some other staff of ours, okay, so that we can discuss individual situations with you, with your family, right? And we can have hour-long conversations with everybody who's your support system to help you figure out what's the right thing to do. A lot of times, family are very concerned about what you're doing. And so I want you to invite them to our meetings so that we can start discussing really what you have to do. Okay. Let me see. We go to, oh, I see. I'm sorry. I'm reading the slide here, guys. I'm sorry. Yeah, we have options. Because of my experience, I know what it's like to get a loan that's at a very high interest rate. I also know what happens when all of a sudden the interest rates go down dramatically. As Arvin was talking about, he all of a sudden found himself in a situation with very low interest rates. When those kind of things happen, your financial aid office is working behind the scenes at all times to try to find ways to refinance these loans all the time. So you may get one loan, but then I may come to you as a class and say, guess what, guys? We think we can refinance this and save you 2 interest points. That's a very important function for us to do for you, because you're not going to be able to monitor the stock market, and you're not going to be able to monitor what Wall Street is lending to people, but we do. And when we see an opening, we go for it, and we go for it on behalf of all the students and the graduates that have loans for us. So we are committed as a nonprofit, and because Arvin is our boss, and he is just so into the idea that this should not be repaid at millions of dollars. And so we really are working very hard to make it something that not only do you understand, but also that you will have opportunities that we can present to you for refinancing. Hopefully by the time you get to be a doctor, then you get into your residency, it will be easier for you to refinance student loans. But you're not going to end up in debt like you would at the big for-profits, because the tuition is low, the living expenses in Dominica are low, and because we are working consistently to try to get you to be able to have the best terms and conditions that you can get. So that's the kinds of options we're talking about to make your medical education affordable. I can also say things to you like, well, don't eat so much, and that works. You could save money because you don't have to borrow it, but we try to balance with you, right? We try to balance with you what it is that you need as a student to be able to be successful. You want to go to the next slide? Thank you. So the first thing that ACSOM has done is really to keep the tuition pretty low. It's $25,000 a semester. I mean, these figures that you see up there are for 2 semesters in an academic year, right? So if you're Canadian, your dollar is on a 1-to-1 value with an American dollar. And that goes up and down, and we calculated it. So, this year you may have, we bill in US dollars. So this year you may have a lower tuition. Next year it might be a higher tuition than US students, because it's always a 1-to-1 value. You want to change the slide? Unless you have any questions. Is anybody writing any questions about this tuition?
Not yet, and they usually come towards the end of the presentation. So we'll keep moving, and then we'll get to the questions. Thank you. I will let you know, though, Jane, if we get some questions.
Oh, you'll know. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, guys. I usually work on my computer. I don't really talk. Okay, so we have a cost of attendance that what I try to do is mirror the Title IV federal loan program. I've worked with that for many, many years. One of the reasons that I was hired was because I am an expert in Title IV and the rules and the regulations. We are running this school according to Title IV regulations, even though we're not a Title IV school. That's an important thing for you to know. You may go to another school that's not a Title IV institution, and then they can do anything they want because they're not going to lose participation with the federal program. This school is committed. You'll see that our policies and our procedures all mirror the Title IV, because the federal government made them for a reason. They're good policies. They protect the student. And that's what we want to do. So this cost of attendance is very similar to what you would find at a school that was a Title IV. Okay, and we're using the same kind of things. So you're going to, the slide that we're looking at is a little higher and has not been changed. And it was supposed to be. So I apologize for that. So let me just go through a little bit about what you will need to spend. Okay, your tuition is set, but then there are plenty of scholarships. We got a robust amount of scholarships. And you'll be talking to Office of the Admissions Committee. The Admissions Committee will award you an academic scholarship. The bursar will know about it. And so your tuition and fees will be, let's say, $25,000 less whatever scholarship you got for that semester that you're in. Your living expenses are pretty much the same. Okay, you have your rent is usually about $700 a month. That's not too bad. That's including $100 cleaning fee, so you get maid service. And what we do is I kind of like steer you to $200 a week for food. Not that you all need it, but because you're Americans and Canadians, and because you're busy medical students, you may end up having to go to the expensive supermarkets instead of the market or something like that. So we provide an ample cost of attendance, particularly for food and electricity and housing. We know what you need. However, we don't put in there anything that's going to make you be able to go out and go to dinner all the time. It's just, you're a student. You have to repay this money in most of your, and we want you to learn to be conservative and to learn to be the best, take care of your money the best you can under the circumstances. And when I say under the circumstances, what I'm talking about is you are a medical student. You're a medical student first. So a lot of times when you're talking to me after you're a student or before you're a student, there will be some concerns that you have, or you go, well, that's too expensive. And a lot of times I'll say, I agree. I think that's that's really expensive. Why don't we try to find a little way for you not to spend $200 a week on food, right? Then there'll be other times where a situation is like, oh, I have to take off a semester because I have to have surgery and I can't do it. But then my loans are going to accumulate more interest and it's just going to be horrible. You know what? That's you and I have to have a conversation about what is more important, being able to understand your material and the academics, or more interest. And so we have a lot of tools that I can show you all the time that will show you, you take off a semester, this is what's going to happen with your loans. If you don't take a semester, this is what's going to happen. Do you have options? So financial aid does end up counseling you about a lot of living problems that you might have. It's not to say that Student Support Services is a wonderful student support services office, and they will support you every inch of the way. But when it comes to your money concerns, I'm there to jump in when needed. Okay. We have down 2 flights a year. You don't need the 3,000. That's where one of the changes that I made. You can go down for $1,000 round trip. So we'd like you to go for the semester and then go home at the end of every semester. There's some miscellaneous expenses, and then there's the health insurance. And the health insurance is not $2,000, it's $3,360 a year. So that means it's $1,860, and it does get billed by the school. So your total cost of attendance there is about $73,000. And we will make sure that you all get the proper cost of attendance in your financial aid package, and it will be updated on the website tomorrow. All right. The same thing in clinical, except the tuition is a little higher, and you'll be in Bridgeport, Connecticut looking for an apartment. And then we're talking about expensive apartments. So you'll probably end up sharing it, but I'm assuming that you'll have about $1,000 a month for your shared apartment with someone. Unfortunately, you're going to be, a medical student. You're going to be at the hospital all the time. This is no time that you're really going to be able to get a real nice apartment all by yourself. Hopefully you will not have any time to be there. Same thing with the flights, except it's not really 2 flights, because you're going to need that $2,000 a year for your transportation. I lived up north for a long time. I'm in Florida now, but I lived up north, and I know. Sometimes you're just standing in the street. You need to get an Uber. This is what you're going to need that $2,000 for, to be able to get to wherever you have to get to and get back to the hospital to study. Health insurance would be at the same. So where it's probably about $73,000 in basic sciences and a little bit more, 82 or 83 in clinical. These things are going to change. Inflation is here. The tuition has not gone up since the school started. I don't know when it will go up, but you have to expect that those things will happen. That goes along with your loans. Your loans will go up too, and we will all be working together to try to make sure that you get into the best possible repayment at the best possible terms. Okay, let's move on. All right.
Okay, and Jane, we did have a question come in.
Okay.
They want to know if students can apply for student loans to pay for the tuition. So I guess what kind of loan exactly are they applying for?
All right, guys. Okay, I said you were not Title IV, but I didn't tell you that we do have student loans. We have a private student loan. And what we do is we keep it mirrored to the federal program. So right now, if you were at one of the Title IV institutions, as a graduate student, you would get most of your money that you'd have to borrow in terms of what's called a federal Grad Plus loan. And those interest rates are right now this year, they reset them every year in July. And so it's like 9.1 now. The loan that you're going to be taking out is also 9.1. Okay, it has similar terms and conditions. I'm not saying that it's exact. Okay, so don't get that impression, but it's really simple. there's a fee attached to a federal grad plus of 4.23. Our fee is 4.5. Okay, anybody's taken out a loan before, I'm assuming that you know what the fee is, and if you don't, then that's what we'll talk about. Okay, do you know if Canadian students can apply for student loans to pay for their tuition? Okay, so you all, Canadians and Americans, you can all apply for the private loan that we offer through financial aid. A Canadian student is most probably not going to get provincial loans. Most of those have 10-year requirements, so that a school has to be in existence for 10 years. However, the good thing about being Canadian is that the banks in Canada offer really good educational lines of credit, and they have much lower interest rates. So we will encourage to be applying to your local bank for that medical student loan credit. And most of our Canadian students have already gotten that, and then they get the money from the bank from themselves, and then they pay the bursar's office. So it's good to be Canadian. Unfortunately, you can't get the provincial loans from the government at this time. We're working on it. I really want all of you to understand, before you go to school, what it's going to cost. What are the costs associated with attending a medical school? Right? Like we said before, it's food, it's toothpaste, it's all those things. It's not just tuition. And what I want to do is work with you early in the process, so that when you get down there for orientation, you already know everything that you're planning. I always say to a student, if there's ever a time to worry about money, it's before you start. Let's worry now. If you're going to stay awake at night saying, I don't know, I'm not going to be able to afford this, is it worth it? Then good. Let's talk to your family, talk to me, talk to people that have been through this with a lot of people, so that you can really decide before you get there. If you're taking out a loan, we'll give you the money as soon as we see you the whites of your eyes. But I want to make sure that you come. I don't want you to run away with the money. All right. So we do this entrance counseling. During the time when you're an enrolled student, I will speak to you individually all the time. We'll speak to you as a class, and we'll start talking. We'll start having some of the lender people come down and to really explain to you some debt management strategies that they know about. So it's not all me. All right. The lender really does provide a lot of debt management counseling for you. Before you leave, there's exit counseling. You probably all know this because you had federal loans before or something, right? But we'll go through another exit processing, so you make sure that you are not going to graduate, go into your residency, and never think about the mail that's coming in for student loans and repayment schemes. So we'll be working on that and refinancing towards the end. Okay. I think I've covered everything on this list. Scholarships. I probably should talk to you a little bit more about scholarships. They really are robust. Okay. Here we go. You can have all these different kind of scholarships awarded for academics. There's also some non-academic scholarships. So if you have a real desire to help in community service, if you want to work within the community of Dominica, we are a nonprofit, and we're pretty passionate about helping the people of Dominica. There's a wonderful community health module that the students really have a fantastic professor in there. And we can get scholarships for you, so that if you are somebody that can contribute to the community, that you'll have that opportunity. So there, it's not, I want to make it clear, please apply for it. Please write me a letter, an email or a letter, and telling me about your passions and about how you've helped people before, or I've never had time to help people, but this is what I'm dreaming of. I want to be the kind of doctor that goes all around the world. I want to be that international doctor. I want to have the opportunities. Okay. This scholarship is not one where it's going to say, oh, financial aid office is knocking on the door and saying to you, did you do any community service lately? It's not going to be like that. Okay. It depends upon if you're going to get a scholarship, if you're the right person to join our commitment. And if you are, then we want to help you. I've already talked to you about the ACSOM Private Educational Loan Program. You're very lucky if you go to any other school that I know of in the Caribbean that has only private loans. You're not going to beat these rates. And I've seen the administration been very firm. I just went through a conversation with them, and they're very firm. Now, these loans are going to be subsidized by the school and the nonprofit for you, because right now you have a 9.1 percentage loan. It probably will go down in July, so we're happy about that, right? But the Wall Street, who is really ending up lending you money, right? Wall Street's not lending your lender money. They're not contributing. They're not going to give them money at 9%, not in this day and age. It's more like 14 to 20%. So in order to keep with the mission of the school, the administration has instructed me to just devise a way that the school will subsidize the extra interest for you while you're in school. And hopefully during the time you're in school, we're going to get a new economic environment and the interest rates are going to come down. So we don't have to worry so much about it. But right now, you don't have to pay 12% like you would at other schools, or 15 or 20% that you would find in any other loan program. It's a good loan program. Not that I don't want you to try to get the money from someplace else. I want you to try everything that you can. All right. If you have a rich uncle, it's always good to go after them. All right. So that's who I am. That's what I have to offer you. If you have an aversion to this kind of counseling, this is who I am. So you don't have to ask for that counseling, but it's there for you, and I'm really enthusiastic about giving it to you. Please call me. I don't have that screen. You can call the financial scheduling meeting today at FinAid at ASKIM. If you have a pen and pencil, I'd prefer if you just write to me directly, because that's where I'm working on all day. And I don't want to have a staff member go over there and take all the notes for the FinAid at ASKIM. So
Jane, we can put your number in the comment section right now too. So if you want to tell us what that is, I'll go ahead and type it in there.
So my email is jsutter@acsom.edu.dm.
Perfect.
And it's not like FinAid dot, it's FinAid at. Okay, so jsutter@ACSOM. And my number, my cell number, my personal cell number is 631-338-8272. This is the only school that I'm working for. This is my full-time job. The other part-time job I have is a grandmother. And so sometimes when you call, you might hear some screaming children, and you might hear me saying, please, please let me go outside, because I can't control them. Where is my daughter? When is she coming back to take care of them? But that's who I am. And I'm really hoping that we can be friends.
And we do have a couple more questions for you, Jane.
Okay, good.
Somebody would like to know, first of all, how many classes per semester. There are about 3 to 4 classes per semester. And Jane, does the tuition mentioned cover books and materials?
Okay. No, because the tuition doesn't cover books and materials, because you.
Oh, Jane, you froze on us.
Fee maybe of $100.
Jane, I'm sorry. Could you repeat yourself, because your screen had frozen?
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so you're required to have a certain kind of Apple iPad with you, and we're assuming that most of you do have it. If there's a situation where a student doesn't have any kind of computer to bring with them, they can always talk to me, and through professional judgment, I can add it to your cost of attendance on an individual basis. But most of the students have their own. We really haven't had any requests for not being able to bring the materials that they want. There really aren't books assigned and materials assigned. However, let's talk about this professional judgment a little bit. everybody has their own needs. And in financial aid, there is a standard cost of attendance. And that's what everybody gets, and that's what everybody follows. However, when you have a need that's different, for instance, let's say that you're coming from Calgary, and that airfare is not $1,000 round trip. It's closer to $2,000 round trip. I have the ability through this mechanism called professional judgment. I have the ability to increase your cost of attendance and let you borrow that additional money. So it will work for you.
Great. And I know prior to the webinar today, I had somebody ask me if they pay for the tuition for the year, however it works, and they have to, like you mentioned, for whatever personal reasons, take a semester off or, whatever circumstances, what happens to that tuition that they've already paid?
Okay, so just like in the federal loan programs, we have a policy called a refund policy. Okay, so the refund policy, let's say you get to school and you go to the school having taken out a loan and having paid your tuition through the loan or through self-pay. And then after a week, you decide that you have to leave. You're going to get a pro rata refund, which is identical to what the federal government would make the school do. Okay, we make ourselves do it. And that means that you will get, if you went to, let's say, 5 days of the semester, you will only pay for 5 days of the semester. If you go to anything over 60% of the semester, once you've been in school for 60% of the time, then you've paid for the tuition the whole semester. Okay? But anytime before that, and we have modules. So if you decide you quit or have to do something else with it, then we will calculate it on a pro rata per day basis. And there's a formula. We use the federal formula and we return the money to you. If you're on a loan, we will not give the full refund back to you. We will pay off that portion of your loan for you. We're not going to let you. It would be nice to say, okay, I think I'll go. And then I got sick, so now I need the refund money for my surgery. But that's just not the way it works. If you take out a loan, we'll pay off the loan for you or that portion of the loan for you, because that's the smart thing to do. And when you said how many courses you have, I mean, I'm sure you're looking at the curriculum and stuff, but there's modules in it. So there could be 2 to 3 modules in a semester. But you're not paying by a module. You're paying $25,000 for the full semester, the fall semester and the spring semester. And then if you look at the academic calendar, you'll see the exact dates. Is that good?
Great. Thank you so much, Jane. And the academic calendar is on our website, so please go there if you want more details on just about everything. But Jane has been amazing in describing all the ins and outs in great detail, whether it's tuition or financial aid, the scholarships we have available for you. If you do have additional questions, feel free to email her or call her, text her, like she said. She's extremely readily available to help you at any point in the process, whether you're just thinking about applying. You can always contact me as well. Or after you have applied, you will be setting some side time to specifically go over your particulars with Jane. I'm sorry, we had one more question. Will students get time to apply for the scholarships? Is it hard work to apply?
Very good question, really, because that's important. It's like so hard to apply. No, first of all, most of the academic scholarships are automatic because the admissions committee, I don't give out academic scholarships. I pretty much stay out of who you are academically. It's just like better for me to be blind about that stuff, unless you want to talk about it. Okay. Is it the community service scholarship and other non-academic scholarships are not hard to apply for, because I just want you to write me a letter and tell me about your passions. Then I'm going to take it to our financial aid committee, which consists of our vice president of enrollment and our president and once in a while Arvin. And we we'll think about the situation and think about whether we can tweak out a little bit more scholarship for you. But your major scholarship is going to be merit-based, right? And then there's all kinds of, you see all of the scholarships here. So I have something to do with the loan program. I have something to do with the community health scholarships. The rest of it, Aspen Value Scholarship would be something that was not academic. And so I would be able to, steer the committee in who you are. But I think that the most important thing about trying to get one of those scholarships is to let me know who you are. And so I can explain to you what it would involve, and we can decide together. And then you'll write this essay to me. I'll gear you on what to say, what not to say. And then we'll take it to the committee and it's usually just a tweaking of extra money. Okay, but it's worth it. It's worth it not to have to borrow it, isn't it?
Well, Jane, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate all of your experience and your knowledge and your patience and your passion. So thank you so much for joining us. If there are any additional questions, like I said, please feel free to contact Jane directly or myself. I do want to take a moment to invite everybody to grab their phones and scan this QR code. This is going to take you to your future as a doctor. This is the application, the ACSOM application. It doesn't take long. It is free of cost. And the only thing you need at this particular moment are your unofficial transcripts to start the process. Submit your unofficial transcripts, send in your basic information. It'll take a few moments, and that'll start the conversation. I know that obviously this can be, a scary step to take. There's still a lot of information that is out there that you might need, a lot of questions you might have that need answers. So we are going to help you throughout the entire process, whether it's Dr. Baggerpour, who again, we saw is extremely passionate and committed to ACSOM and to your dream of becoming a physician. And we have Jane, again, also the entire team at ACSOM is readily available to all of you at any step of the way. So I can't stress that enough. Again, I'm the national recruiter. You might see me on the road at school events. So please go ahead and ask me any questions along the way. We had one more comment. The cost of attendance is an estimate. Yes. If you choose not to fly home. Yes, exactly. So there's a little bit more information in the comment sections about that. But again, there will be.
Let me one quick second I'll take for that. Yeah, the cost of attendance is an estimate about what a normal student would need to function as a student in Dominica at our school. When we're talking together, and let's say you decided to go for a loan, okay? And so you and I are going to talk. If you're not going to go home, then I'm going to say to you, don't borrow that amount. You'll get approved. If you get approved, you get approved for the max. But if you don't want the max, which is what I'm going to try to encourage you to do, I want you to see if you can get, one of your family members to pay for that Air Force so you don't have to borrow it. I always call it the $45 pizza. And you have to remember that. You're going to buy a pizza tomorrow for $15. You pay it back over 30 years. It's going to be a $45 pizza. So we want you to try to not borrow pizza when you don't need to. Okay?
Great. Thank you, Jane. Now I want pizza for dinner. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please start your application today. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. I know you're all extremely passionate about becoming physicians, and ACSOM can get you there. So go ahead and start that application. Send me a text if you want. Let me know you've done it. I congratulate you all for being here today, and I hope to see you at graduation day. Thank you, Jane. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Good night.